Recording. Let's get started with going over last week's lab. So this is kind of how classes are going to probably be going for the rest of the semester. First things first, we'll go over the solution to the previous assignments, and then after that we'll start the lecture portion and talk about whatever we have to talk about that week. It's taking a long ass time. Okay. So there is some confusion about how to submit. So sometimes I'll ask you for a zip, sometimes I'll ask you for a Java. It really just depends. Okay. I'll go over at the end like how to submit it. You just need to send me the .java file. So all you really do is once when you have your, come on. Why do you take so long? It's not take this long on my Mac. So there was a lot of confusion and questions about how to submit your assignments. For a lot of these, because you're only using one file, I'd rather you just send me the .java file rather than send me a whole zip that I have to navigate through a bunch of folders to get to your actual code, which is just one file. It's just too much hassle. Easier for me to just have you guys name your classes consistently and me to just run it directly. So when you want to submit your Java file, this whole folder exists somewhere. Let's close that. Your whole project you create on IntelliJ, it exists somewhere in your computer. And on Windows, it shows you the whole file path right here. But what you can also do is even on the Mac, you can do this. If you just right click, dude, come on, why are you so damn slow? You are not this slow on the Mac. Should be somewhere in here that says open and explore. Yep, open and explore. And then it'll take you exactly to where this file is, which is your .java file. And you know that because it says chapter2lab.java right there. Oh, I just realized you guys can late submit, so maybe it's not the best idea to go over the exact solution of the homeworks. I was in it last semester because I didn't allow for late submission last semester, but yeah. Yeah, in that case, then, yeah, since I'm allowing for late, and then, where is it? Here. It'll pull up this window, and bam, there's your file. And there's your .java file, and you just send that to iLearn. Please check the Discord. Pablo, I'm not sure how to help you. Please ask on the Discord. Post some screenshots of what's happening. There's a lot of discussion in the homework help channel on the Discord. A lot of people have the same question on submissions. Yeah, I'll post a link again. I posted the link every class so far. Once when you get in there, just to refresh you guys, once you get in here, you'll be in this welcome read here channel. Just click on react to whichever section you're in, whether you're in section 2 or section 7 or section 2. It doesn't really matter which one you pick, just as long as you have a role. That way you can see all the other channels. Because when you first come in, you're only going to be able to see this channel. To get into all of these other channels, you have to have a section 2 or 7 role. There's like 8 people left who haven't picked a role. Oh, oops, that wasn't. I'll put the link in the direct message. There you go. Yeah, there's like 8 people who haven't picked a role, so there's 8 people who are not seeing the actual Discord. But anyways, if there's no questions about the chapter 2 lab, then I'm not going to go over the actual step-by-step solution. Yeah, if there's no confusions, then I don't think there's anything to go over. As labs start getting harder, instead of going over solutions, I might go over talking about some different methods of approaching it, and just kind of demo more so how I'd approach the problem, so that maybe because once you've like uh, how to say the analogy I've been liking to use is software development is a lot like building a table compared to rather than building to like building IKEA furniture. Like you're building your own table from scratch, so you need to go draw out what you want it to look like. You need to measure out the different pieces. You need to cut, measure a bunch of times before you cut, and then you can go about actually like cutting and gluing. And that cutting and gluing is the actual hard coating or the raw coating of it. Everything else, majority of the time when building a table, a lot more of the time is spent measuring and planning and sketching out and all that. You spend way more time there before you actually go to the saw. So approach software the same way. You're going to spend a lot more time looking at the problem, thinking about what it requires, thinking about the steps, moving towards it. Anyways, let's get into selections. These are pretty straightforward. So selections essentially allow us to control the flow of code. They're if-else statements that, or similar statements that allow us to dictate how our code will flow. Like static void main string args box standard. So we'll go over a few different ones. There's a few ways that we could dictate it. Control. So like let's say we have int age equals 18. Then we'll say if age greater than 16, system print, you can drive. Else if age is greater than 21, we'll say you can drink. And we'll say else. We'll just put out your age. Okay, here is your age. Right, and if I run this program, so the configurations, application, chapter 3 lab. Okay, and if I run this code now, then it should print out you can drive. Right. Actually, I should say this is greater than or equal to 21. And then or equal to, because we want to include ages 16 and 21 into these. If I left this as greater than, if his age was 21, it would only show you can drive. So let's think. Can someone tell me holistically this if-else statement? What happens? Walk me through in human terms what will happen in this chunk of code. Anyone? You can unmute yourself and talk to. It's okay.
Basically what's being checked is if the condition in the if statement is being checked first. Since you put 18, right? It's true.
So I'm looking more so these conditions. So remember how for the pre-lab I had like statements like I'll go outside if it's sunny, right? Break this down into something like that. Like how would you translate this whole series of if statements into human terms?
Oh, so you want me to basically talk pseudocode?
Ish, yeah, sure. What I'm looking for is, I mean, I guess this kind of read my mind, but basically I was looking for you to say something like, if someone is 16 or older, it's going to tell them that they can drive. If they're 21 or older, it's going to tell them they can drink. Otherwise, if they're younger than any of that, then it's going to tell them their age. That was basically, yeah.
I see.
So that's what these series.
Basically, the pre-lab.
Yeah, ish. So I mean, with if else statements, you guys probably already know this, but it checks this statement condition. Then because there's an else if, it checks this next statement, and I can have a series of a bunch of other else ifs. So there's no limit. And note, I don't need to have an else here if what I'm trying to check doesn't need it. And this one kind of like depends on your. This one depends on what you're doing. Like let's say we're taking some input from the user and we're checking for like 2 command words, right? We want to see if they wrote read or write. And those are the only 2 words we care about. Anything else is just whatever. We don't care. Yes, Gabriella, you can use else. That's what I just said. You can have as many else if chains as you want. And you do not need to end it with an else. Like, let's say I only want to check these 2 ages. That's it. That's all I would have. If you're younger than 16, then we just don't print anything. But I could have it be like else if, condition statement there, else if there, and I could just keep this going for as long as I wanted. Now that raises a good point. That raises an interesting argument, and kind of leads us to our next thing: is switch statements. Switch statements are interesting, and it's something where students get confused a lot. So we're going to use the same example of here is your age. So we're going to keep using this same example, this same flow, except we're going to convert this into a switch statement. So does anybody want to take a whack at it? How do I start this switch statement? How do I convert this if-else block to a switch statement?
Well, first you have to actually like write out switch, like the actual switch command, then put in parentheses your actual variable you're going to be switching on, so like age.
Right.
Then, yeah, you've got the brackets already. Then it's going to be case. Then the value you're going to be switching on. So case 1, case 2, case 3, so on and so forth.
Well,
I'm
sorry.
skipping over some of the basic.
You're right. Sorry. Yeah, that was correct. Yeah. So in this case, it's not going to be quite it, because switch. This is where kind of like you would use. Obviously, for this, you'd use if-else statements because you can't use greater than or equal to in switch. You look for exact values. So let's say if they're 16, we'll say you can drive. And yeah, so one interesting thing here, one thing to note, if I don't have a break and I say just case 21, you can drink, and then let's just say default, your age is, I make the age 16, and I'm going to go ahead and comment all this out. So that only the switch statement runs now. If I run this, you guys will notice that something interesting happened. It said you can drive, you can drink, and your age is 16. But that's not what we were intending, right? We just really were hoping that it would run this, and then that'd be that. So what am I missing here? Why did it run all 3 of these? Exactly, Marvin, a break statement. A break statement tells you, and this is what's kind of cool about switch statements, you can play with the order so that you can kind of emulate some of the greater than or equal to effects of the if statement. So we could do something like case 16, case 17, case 18, case 19, case 20, right? And then we'll just say if they're exactly 21, break. And we'll do a break over here too. Basically, a break is telling the switch statement will just keep going until it encounters a break statement. So basically, it'll enter through one of these cases and execute that case statements until it encounters a break. Here, what we're saying is that there's multiple cases where this will happen. So if I make it 17, let's say, yeah, you can drive. There you go. Because it came into here to the switch, it saw this case, and then it did this, and then it went here. So these are all like kind of basic examples. I'm just trying to like kind of show how the switch and if-else statements go together. Let's talk a little bit about logical operators. This is basically how we do all of our calculations for, I should say calculations. This is how we control flow. So what are the logical operators we have? List them out to me. Do you guys remember the logical operators? I'll write the symbols out. We got that, there's that, there's that. Are these ringing a bell? Do you guys remember them, or would you prefer me to go through them? Boolean is a data type, Francis or Marvin. Sorry, these are what are called logical operators. But yes, not and or. Those are the three logical operators, and you'll learn more how to use it. You'll be playing a lot with them in discrete math because there's a whole section on logic. But effectively, this is where like people kind of get lost for the first time in the class because logical operators are very confusing. They're not something very intuitive. They're not something we use every day. So it helps when you're first learning them to kind of break it down into human terms. So something you'll see in discrete math a lot is like you'll have P, which is a variable, is equal to, first of all, let's have the sentence. If it is sunny and less than 90 degrees outside, then I will go outside. So there's a few statements here, right? This is kind of like going into discrete math, but for now, let's just exclude the then, which is like the what I'm going to do, and we'll just focus on the conditions. The if it is sunny, P, it is sunny. We'll assign that to the P value. Q, less than 90 degrees. Okay? So in this case, Muhammad, it would be if P and Q, then R. And to convert that into a logical statement, it would be if P and Q, then R. That's how you would kind of write it out in logical math, basically. But in any case, what's happening here is we're saying we're using the and operator. And. Because of right here, we use the word and, right? What and means is that both this and this must be true for the whole of this to be true, right? Because right now we have a compound statement, P and Q, right? And because there's an if, it's a conditional. So the way that this becomes true, and we'll write a little truth table for it, P, Q, P, and Q. Okay, let's split it like that. Okay. True. Oops. False. True, true. Oops. And it's true. This is true. And this is false. And this is also false. If this is false, but this is true, then the whole statement is false. This is false. This is false. It's also false. These are called truth tables. Get used to them. You're going to be doing a lot of them next semester. Effectively, what our truth table does is we've got two statements, P and Q, and it tells us what happens in certain conditions, in this case, P and Q. Um, let's look at some of the other statements as well. Let's say we have P or Q. How would we make that one true? Or what would make this one? Basically, when it's or, it means that just one of these needs to be true. So the only time or will be false is if both are false. Actually, I'm going to do this in Paint. It'll be easier. Everybody following along so far? I know I'm kind of like not doing the best of job. A truth table, assume we've got two statements P and Q. And the way it usually works is one side you do true, true, false, false. This way you get every combination of true, false between the two variables. If you are confused, please do speak up, because this can be confusing. So P and Q, we have P or Q. And means both of these have to be true for this compound statement to be true. And or means just one has to be true for the whole thing to be true. So we've already done this one. This is true, false, false, false. And then P or Q, what would this be? So let's go through it together. What's the first one? Is it true or false? Right. Second one, true or false? Yep. Next one, true or false? True. Last one, true or false?
False.
Awesome. You guys got it. There's a few variations in software with these. So you've got and operator, the or operator. These are the basic ones. Then you have these called the double ones, which I believe are called compound and logical operators Java. I can never remember the names. Those aren't it. Yeah, logical and logical or. Okay. Short circuit and or means, if I remember correctly, it checks with a short circuit or it checks if the first thing is true. If it's not true, it will not even check the second condition. Short circuit and this one's the short circuit or. The short circuit or will check the second statement first and then the first statement. It's really, yeah. Or actually, like, that's not correct. Never mind. It works normally as you expect. Yeah, I used to know what the difference was between these because the class required me to long ago, but then I stopped remembering. And the reason for that is I only ever use these ones. And most software developers I've seen only ever use these two. I have never seen a software developer use these ones. I don't know if your intro classes are having you use these two, but remove them from your wheelhouse. You'll usually use these just because if you use the other one, people are going to think you're weird. It's kind of like putting mayo on your toast. You can do it, but people are going to think you're weird. And then this is the not, which just inverses whatever it is. So if a statement was true, not makes it false. Now, an interesting thing with the not operator. If we have, let's say we have a Boolean is hungry is equal to true. Okay. So if we say is hungry, then you should go get something to eat. Go eat. Okay. Else if, let me say, and again, I could do this with just else, but I'm not going to. Actually, you know what? We'll do it. Yeah, we'll do this way. If is hungry, go eat. Else, you don't need food right now. Okay. So this is pretty straightforward, right? You guys get this. You guys understand if else statements well enough to know what this is doing. If they're hungry, go eat. in any other condition, meaning if this is false, then we're going to do this. Now, if I put the not operator here, what this is saying is we're looking for the false. We're looking for this to be a false. If we have no not operator, we're looking for this to be a true. We'll jump into here if it's a true. But if this is a not, we'll only jump in here if it's false. So if this is false, meaning you're not hungry, then this needs to be here. Otherwise, if this is not false, meaning it's true, then we'll eat. Did that make sense? Everybody follow me along with that?
Wait, why did we switch them? Wouldn't it work either way?
No, because with the not here, regardless of what I have here, whether it's true or false, this is looking for the condition where this variable is false. We will only go into this block if this variable is false. And if we are not hungry, then we don't eat food right now, right? Does that clear it up a little bit?
Well, I mean, like, if it was still is hungry, right? So if it was true, and you put go eat in the first one, if you if okay, so if the two statements were in the original places, like go was first.
Let me switch to maybe you guys don't know what sequence is small. Where's the view? What the hell did I have? Window. How did I change? Oh, there it is. View. Appearance. Presentation mode. Let's scroll down here. I have a not operator in front of is hungry. This condition will only be fulfilled if is hungry is equal to false because of this not operator. So if this is false, if is hungry is false, we're prepared for that condition here. If is false, if we are not hungry, then we don't need to eat, right? Otherwise, else, it means we are hungry, then you should go eat.
So if you remove the not, it's going to print out go eat.
If I remove the not, it's going to print out you don't need food right now because this is going to be true. And we're going to execute this block. If is hungry is false, then it's going to say go eat with how I have it set up right now.
Oh, okay. I was looking at it. I'm sorry, I just woke up, so
it's all good.
Thank you anyways, though.
Yeah, the reason why we changed the order is because we put the not here, and that semantically changed the EFL statement, so we needed to restructure it a bit to reflect that. Any other questions on that part? Did I lose anybody else with that? So let's, hypothetically speaking, if is hungry was declared as false originally, would a not operator return true? No, that is a very good question. And that's what I was saying before is the not operator in the if condition does not change the value of the Boolean. It does not make it true or false. It does not change the actual variable. What it's saying is this condition becomes true if this variable is false. So we're basically looking for the case. The case is that we're looking for this being false. Putting the not variable in an if condition means we want this variable to be false. By default, it'll come into the block if that variable is true. If we put the not operator, we'll go into that block if that variable is false. Okay. Make sense, everybody? Okay. That's kind of honestly, that's it with the conditionals, with selectors. I know this is kind of the first place where people start scratching their heads. A lot of it, can you run a program like this? What do you mean? I can run any program I want. So what happens with if I just put is hungry over here, if I just have it as a line, that's a syntax error because this is the value. This is not an express. It's not a statement. Right. It would create an error because again, this is a value, not a statement. But because in here we want some kind of value, this is perfect. We're looking for the value where this is false. What you could do is hungry is equal to is hungry. This basically allows us to invert the Boolean flag. Basically, we're saying is hungry is equal to the opposite of whatever value it had currently. So if it was true, it'll become false. If it was false, it will become true. That's how you would use that in a statement outside of if conditions. A lot of this is going to be practice. I'll probably... So today's assignment is kind of straightforward. And let's kind of go over that. Where's so today's lab, you guys are going to be making your own little sorting hat quiz on Java. Should be fairly straightforward. And this is going to be really good practice on... I have a bunch of if conditions written out in a more like human terms, and this is going to be a good condition for you guys to practice all of the logical operators. Like if someone is not the class clown and tend to be competitive, then that. There's going to be an interesting challenge in this because you guys are going to ask the user answers to these questions as yes, no, and then somehow with that string, because you're going to get a string from them, you're going to want to convert that to a Boolean. And then you're going to want to have a way to store whatever the responses were to each question so that you could use it here. I don't care how you name your variables. With an asterisk, I want you guys to get out of the habit of just naming your variables A, B, C, D, E, like just like that. Because what happens with that, it'll work in your code and you can follow along with it, but here's what's going to happen. If you come back to that code later, like 6 months down the road, and you want to make some additions to it, and all your variables are named A, B, C, D, and you have to just keep track of like, this one was from here, this one was from here, it's going to be infuriating. You're not going to want to work with that code. If you name your variables something clearly, like is brave, is class clown, is competitive, etc., then you know what those variables are without looking at the declaration. You can just read it in the code. It almost becomes like just reading words. And this is one where I'll probably do some actual like live coding next week to go over it. I might even like actually come up with a solution for it. But for now, do your best. And think about some of this. There's some head scratchers over here too. You guys are going to be having to doing some string comparisons here to get the Boolean values. Have you guys learned how to do string comparisons in Java?
Not in Java.
Okay, string comparisons. Let's say I have a string 1 is equal to hello, and then string 2 is equal to world. Okay, I've initialized 2 strings. Your instinct might be to say Boolean same string, and this is not necessarily how you do it, but I'm just doing it to show you guys. If the strings match, or we'll just do a if statement. If the strings match, right? One of your first instinct might be to do this. This is wrong. Don't do this. This is not how you compare strings. I could show you how to compare strings, but how to compare strings in Java seems like a very easy question to Google, right? And I'm betting you actual human dollars money that if you Google this, the first link will have an actual code example for you. So, and by the way, with things like that, you don't have to cite your code just because some of that stuff is just so basic. First link will be Stack Overflow, and first Stack Overflow link will have someone writing out exactly how to do it and a big description on why you should do it why you should not do it in this manner. So What do you mean? What do compare strings Java use for? Comparing strings is you want to see if one string equals the other, because when you ask the user to answer these questions, they're going to say yes or no, and we're going to be searching for certain words, yes or y, right? We're going to look if they gave us a yes or a y in their string. And that will decide whether the answer to question 1 was true or false, right? Because when you use string matching in Java, it gives a Boolean output. So read a little bit more on how to compare strings in Java. And if you guys really are confused and scratching your heads in the Discord, ping me and I'll answer the question, and I'll even you guys can pin it if you want. I wonder if you guys have permission to pin messages. Let me check. See if you guys can pin a message. Hover over someone's message, and on those like three, on these 3 dots, see if you have the pin message option. You should. Okay, you guys don't have the permission. I'll have to look up how to give it to you outside of class then. How can I make it so you can pin messages? Seems like it should be a very basic thing. Oh well, worst case, I'll pin my responses. That way, if someone comes in and asks a question that I've already answered, you guys can just refer to the pins for those answers.
You're talking about the Discord, right?
Yeah.
Why don't we just create another like sub chat or whatever you call it with just answers?
Because then you don't get to see the context of the question.
Oh, okay.
Because the homework help is already the place where people ask questions and get answers. I mean, ideally, when you go to ask questions about homework, you should probably scroll through the message log a little bit just to see if it's been responded by someone else or myself.
Okay.
But yeah, do you guys feel confident looking up the string comparison, or do you guys want to like maybe do that together, so that you guys can see the information that I would look for, or how I would kind of go about it?
Can you help us
together?
Yeah, go through it together. Sure. String comparisons in Java. So first point is a Java T point. I love this website. It basically is a condensed version of the Java manuals. So let's read. First, I told you guys to look up string compare, and that's just because I hinted at it in this one, because we convert the input to a Boolean. So we know we're getting a string input from a question, right? We're going to ask these questions to the user, and they're going to say yes or no. That's the basis of the program. And then we need a way to read that string yes or no and make it a Boolean. So this is where string comparisons come in, right? By default, you guys would be tempted to use equal, which is reference matching, but that's not correct in Java because it doesn't. It's just not right. Sorry. There's no simple explanation for it. The explanation is actually really, really surprisingly complicated. Just know that this does not do what you think it does when it comes to strings. With integers, this is okay. With numbers, this is okay. You should use this to compare numbers. But with strings, this does not do what you think it does. Equals used in authentication. This seems confusing, but just know that equals method. There are 3 ways to compare methods by equal method. The string equals method compares the original content of the string. It compares values of string for equality. String class provides 2 methods. That's fine. This just kind of goes, gives us the 2 methods of equals, and there's the equals ignore case, which, hint, hint, hint. Cool. And it even gives you a code example over here. So we have a string 1, Sachin. And create a new Sachin. All right, so does string 1 equal string 2? Well, yes, we do expect these to be equal. And the output here is true, right? System.out.print, the output is true. If S1 is equal to S3, those are the same still, even though he used a different method of initializing the string. And then does S1 is equal to S4? Nope, these are two different words, false. So right here, we see that our we have a way of doing a string comparison, right? This gives us some kind of output. But remember, I will be checking in your lab if putting in yes or y registers as true. That is important to note. So what do we think we're going to do here? What tool do we need to use? Because we're basically looking to see if our string is equal to yes or if our string is equal to y. How would we go about that? Just that part. What would we use for that?
So we can't just do a char comparison.
I would prefer you didn't. I would prefer to use the string equals. And yes, Muhammad, you would use the or operator. Remember, at the end of the day, this is a Boolean value. This thing outputs a Boolean value, right? It compares these two strings, this one, S1 and S2, and then if they are equal to each other in content, then it returns a true. Let's look at some of the other ones too, just for fun. The equals compares references, not values. References means it's checking to see if it's the same reference in memory. If they're referencing the same location in memory. That's not the same thing as having the same value. Again, like I said, the answer, if we broke that down, we could get even more complicated with it, but that's a simple answer. Compare to is something a little bit different. It gives you a lexical response. It's useful sometimes, not, but again, it doesn't exactly do what you think it's going to do. It basically gives you some kind of like numeric value, which will be used for lexicography. I can't even say that word. It's this very specific subset of comparing strings and words. So obviously, we can look by looking at this. This is not what we're looking for. This is obviously not what we're looking for. So most likely, we're going to use the equals method, right? And that's just by looking at these two things. That's how I would come up with, that's how I would discern this information. Was that helpful, or are you guys still even more lost? And if you're lost, that's okay. I'll be around on the homework help Discord to answer questions. You'll have your fellow students. There's at least one of you here who understood it. I guarantee it. I actually know that for a fact because some of you guys are junior level coders. So there's at least one person in the Discord or in the Zoom call right now who understood this, who can help you in the Discord later if you have questions. But that's basically it. You're going to ask these questions. The user's going to say yes or no. You're going to convert that string to Boolean, and I give you some tips over here on how to do that. And then, using these four statements, we're going to check, based on the user's responses, are they Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw, or Hufflepuff? And then you're going to output with a message like this. Congratulations, you are house, whatever. And that's it. That's your whole lab. Fairly straightforward. The only thing that gets kind of tricky is using the string input to make some kind of a Boolean value out of it. But I will leave you guys to play around and try that. And yeah, think about how you'll store these values. Think about how you'll process them, etc. Any questions before I end class for the day? No? Going once?
I have a question.
Sure.
So on iLearn, the milestone 0 for the game project is open. Should we be working on that? Because I don't know if we have any instructions on it.
No, you did on the first day or last week. Check the lecture recording. Not last week, but the week before. One of those lecture recordings. Actually, let me pull up the YouTube. I am Turk. If you go to the channel, it's this one right here, lecture 2.5. I go over the let's build a game, and I go over the milestone 0 in that. Essentially, what you're doing is you're planning out your game. You're drawing out the map. You're writing out how combat will work in your game. And if you're confused, there are milestone instructions right here. And I think I kind of just told you guys, read this, because this has everything you need. And if you have questions from this, then ask me. But the instructions are right here.
Okay, so you just said read it and then ask, but I'm just gonna ask really quick anyways. Do you want us to like literally draw the map? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. Again,
okay.
The video, I have it. I recommend you guys use grid paper or like Excel or whatever, like some kind of grid format for your maps, because that's going to make a future milestone much easier.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
So how detailed do the maps have to be? Just piggybacking on his, because it didn't really mention the specifics. Like, I know that.
So I recommend just modeling your map after something like this. I think I have the link in the instructions. So if you go here, it'll tell you like, hover over a room. It'll tell you like, oh, what monsters there are in there. That's just
okay.
It should tell you whatever's in the room. It should tell you like what the hallways look like, because it's going to be a text-based dungeon crawler. You need to describe what the room looks like. Kind of, if you've ever played like a tabletop role-playing game, right? There's no visual medium usually for you to see what the room looks like. So it's the storyteller, in this case, you, the program, to tell the player what's going on around them, but through text. So think about what the rooms are made of, what material, what they look like, what's in each room. Are there monsters in every room? Are there treasure in rooms? Are there traps, etc.? Like really just think about what all is in your game and get creative with it. And then it'll be easier to cut it out later, because I'll give you comments like, hey, you should consider removing this or removing that. Any other questions? All right. Well, have a good weekend, everybody. Good luck with the assignment, and ask in Discord if you have questions. Yeah, I'll reiterate that again. If you guys do have questions, please ask it in the Discord. When you DM me, it's not that I don't want to answer your question, but I'd rather answer it in a public space where everyone can see it, rather than in an email or a private message where only you can see it, because guaranteed someone else has the same question as you. All right. Good luck, guys.
I still have a question.
Appreciate it.
So for the assignment, I turned it in, but when I download like the file, the Java file, it says JDK not like installed or something. I don't know if you can just
open something with the browser.
Can you just open my file to, because I have it done. I just want to.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, I got it. You're fine.
Am I all good?
Yeah, you're all good.
Is there a reason why it says that like top little like?
Probably something with your browser.
Okay.
It's probably your browser trying to run it within. Java and JavaScript files work weird in browsers. Browsers try to run them, and if your browser is not set up properly to run it, then you're going to get weird errors. Don't worry about it. I got it downloaded just fine, so you're all set.
Okay, thank you. Have a good one.